Hey, welcome to the Be All In podcast. We are sitting down with a very, very special guest, one of our best friends, Daisy McDonald. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited. We're sitting in a hotel room in Melbourne because Bailey and Days are doing the Melbourne High Rocks event today. You excited?
I am excited, but I'm definitely very nervous. My dad's been calling it a hypoxia instead of a high rocks, and I feel like it's going to be very relevant soon.
What's a hypoxia? I didn't even know that
Like
word.
lack of oxygen to the brain. Yes.
Yeah, it is tough. I
Yeah.
have done it and I died. But you're a CrossFit Games athlete, so I'm sure you're going to be fine.
We'll see.
So for those who don't have the pleasure of knowing Daisy, I'm going to give my introduction on who I think Daisy McDonald is, and at the end you can kind of chime in. So Daisy McDonald, at the ripe age of, are you still 22?
Yes.
Yes, 22, coming from the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, is a very accomplished human. Growing up, her primary sport was gymnastics, and after 14 years of the sport, she competed for Victoria at the national championships all the way up to her level 10, which means she demonstrated the skills necessary to qualify for an Olympic team.
Oh, that's incorrect.
Is it incorrect?
I love the enthusiasm, but that was not on the cards.
I'm going to say it was. We're keeping it in. At the end of 2019, she retired from gymnastics at the end of her high schooling, and to keep up her fitness levels, she joined her local CrossFit box, Wolf Den, to train alongside her mum and brother. This was just prior to the COVID pandemic, and during the pandemic is where Daisy continued to train and excel in the sport of CrossFit. In 2022, Daisy competed at the Oceania semi-finals on Team Wolf Den CrossFit before making her individual debut in 2023. Daisy was going from strength to strength very quickly, and at just her second individual semi-final this year, she finished third place and qualified for her first CrossFit Games in 2024, where she competed at Texas and finished 27th in the world. Yay. One of the most impressive things about Daisy, however, is that she manages to do all this while still studying and completing her honours of physiotherapy, which she recently graduated from. Along with this, Daisy is charismatic, fun, and competitive, and we are lucky to have her as one of our friends. Okay, that's my intro.
So cute. Thanks.
Okay, so I guess how would you describe yourself, and what do you say your job title is to someone that meets you for the first time?
Oh my goodness. I should have thought about this a bit before. I would say I am, I would say I'm a CrossFit athlete. I am now kind of a physio. I haven't got my registration and insurance yet, but that's the plan next year, is to do a bit of both. So hopefully work part-time as a physio and then keep pursuing CrossFit as well, depending on how the season goes.
Exciting. That's so cool. I know when you got, like, again, lots of people say, like, when you want to be an athlete, it's important to pursue something along the side, and not many would know how much you were juggling this year, because your final year of the honours, you're not just studying, you have to do crazy hours of placement, absolutely everything. It would have been a lot to manage.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot to manage. There was a lot of juggling happening behind the scenes. Uni were very nice to me in the fact that I was in a bit of a sports program, so they were able to move my placements to different times in the year. I did lots of studying in Texas and in Tennessee, and my partner Adam was very, very helpful because he's very mathematical and statistical. So he was able to help me complete those hard tasks that I had to do overseas. And then I was still able to graduate with my mates, which was awesome.
So cool. That's so impressive. So I guess looping back to earlier on and your gymnastics career, what are some of the things that you learned, I guess, throughout your childhood, throughout your gymnastics, which have carried on to help you in where you are today?
I think the main thing that gymnastics taught me was time management and I guess discipline. I definitely enjoyed gymnastics a lot when I was doing it. So it wasn't hard to learn those things because I enjoyed going to the gym. I enjoyed training with my mates. But I think from such a young age, I've just been doing so much outside of schooling or, just seeing friends as well. So like moving into CrossFit and just life in general and uni, I think it just transferred over so well. Like a lot of people ask me, how do you fit so much into your day? How do you study full time and train? And I'm like, I don't know. That's all I've known. So it seemed like an easy move over to, yeah.
And so next year, you'll probably feel like you have too much time if you're not studying, just work and training. Oh my gosh, you're going to have too much time on your hands.
I think it'll be, yes, a little bit of that, but I think it'll be interesting because it's, when I start working, it'll be new. It'll be I'm sort of on my own. I don't have I can't say I'm a student anymore. I can't fall back on that. So there might be a bit of pressure in terms of like actually being a physio and actually looking after a real patient this time. So, but I am excited for next year.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Okay, so after finishing your gymnastics career, you stumble into the amazing box that is Wolf Den. What is it about the CrossFit methodology and CrossFit in general, I guess, that made you fall in love with it, and just speak to, I guess, that transition period away from gymnastics training into CrossFit training?
Yeah, I think in gymnastics, especially in the later years where you had your set routines, throughout the comp season, all you would do would be the same thing every day. You'd go to beam and you'd do your 7 hit routines. If you fall off, you'd do another one. Same thing when you go to every other floor, bars, vault, that sort of thing. It was very regimented, very much the same schedule. Whereas when I started CrossFit, it was all fresh. There was so much to learn. There was so many new skills I didn't know how to do. There's always something to improve on, whether it be, striving for a new weight or like a new lift or whatever it be. And I think that, the change in movements, the different things every day, that's what excited me about it. And I never feel like it's boring or, old.
Yeah,
So,
the variety aspect of it is like, and you always feel like you can be doing something better and more, and always have something to be chasing, which is so cool. Yeah. And so you got into CrossFit just before lockdown. I've heard you say before that you attribute a lot of your success to that lockdown period. You actually maximized your time training. Was that at home in the garage?
Yep.
Yeah.
So very lucky that mum's like a big CrossFit frother. So,
Sim, shout out.
Yeah, shout out Sim. She, we have a shed at home, and when we first went into lockdown, we were lucky enough that to borrow some stuff from the box. And we had our mats and a barbell and weights and things. And this is when I was first getting into it. And I did a strength program out of the shed at home. And I think, we had so much time on our hands at home. So I could be in there a couple times a day, learning all the new things.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then I guess in training and you got more and more into it, I've heard you say on another podcast before that when you watched your first CrossFit doco, you basically decided you wanted to go to the games then. Is that true?
In 2017, we watched on the TV, so mum loves CrossFit, but doesn't know a lot about the actual sport, whereas Dad doesn't do CrossFit but knows a lot about the sport, can tell, who's won, that sort of thing. So he put it on the TV, and I think I watched it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the games. And I told my mum, and I remember she told the owner of Wolf Den at the time, and I think they had a laugh to themselves. But
hey, look at you now.
I made it happen.
So obviously 2017 is when you first set that goal. From that point, did you really want to make the games, or was there another point in your training career that you decided, okay, I actually want to make this my passion and pursuit to make the games?
I'm not really sure. I think it was just sort of a gradual progression. And I think in gymnastics, as we mentioned before, the Olympics was not on the cards. But when I started CrossFit, it was much more of an obtainable goal. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely far away, but I could make the games because everyone starts from this one open, and then you feed through all the competitions until you can reach games. Whereas in gymnastics, it was very segmented, and I was in a stream of competition where I couldn't really make that jump over to being good enough to make the Olympics. So I think when I started progressing and getting the skills and stuff, and then maybe when we went to Taurine on the team, I was like, I'll just keep training and see what can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we first met you, I think it was at the 2023 semi-finals. Mm-hmm. That's when we first met you. And that was your first experience as an individual making the semi-final. And then it's seeing you the following year after, I feel like there was a clear change in your mindset and your confidence. What do you kind of feel like made you gain that next sort of level of confidence within yourself and your ability?
Well, I think when I made Taurine in 2023, I was really excited, and there was no pressure going into the comp because it was the first year. And when I came 18th, I was like, oh, I think the games is kind of far away. But then later that year, we went to Down Under, and I came 5th, and I was like, oh, can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
Shit, like this is like, okay, I could make this happen. Like I just got to keep working towards it. Hopefully the cards fall in my favor. Hopefully no handstand push-ups. And then, it could be a reality. And I think doing well there and then seeing my progression in training made me sort of like have a bit of a mindset switch that like, if I want it and I work for it, I can do it next year.
Yeah, that is so exciting. And then obviously the following year there was the extra spot up for grabs and you qualified this year out of quarterfinals. Were you qualified in third or fourth? Fourth. So it was very much on the cards. Did you feel a lot of pressure going into the semifinals this year, or was it still kind of I'm just going to see how I go?
I think I felt pressure purely because I really wanted to go. And it was more about like the pressure I put on myself. There was definitely pressure from people at the gym, but it was more jokingly. It was, you can do it, Daisy. Like everyone had that like strong belief that I could go, but I was sort of like, guys, like it's really hard out there, that sort of thing. But the pressure I put on myself was because I really wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Okay, that's so cool. And then obviously we got to spend a lot of time with you during the weekend. It seemed like the further and further along the weekend went, you were gaining more and more confidence and like at points it looked like you were having so much fun out there. How was Torian this year as an experience in general?
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was like tenfold better than the year previous. I think the year previous, even though there was no expectations, I was so nervous. I think the nerves got in the way of having fun. But this year I was having so much fun out there. Obviously I got to compete alongside Hayley and then you guys were there as well. And it was awesome. And then, I was very nervous before every event because I knew what could happen. But while I was actually out there competing and then following the events was very cool.
Yeah, it was so much fun and so cool to see you just continue having success after success and just building that momentum along the way. And then obviously in the final event, you qualify for the CrossFit Games. What was that moment like when you realized you had secured your ticket?
It was pretty cool. I know going into the last event, I was very nervous because it was probably my worst one for the weekend. So I knew I just had to try and execute as best I could, stay close behind the people that were in fourth and fifth, and then hopefully I'd like do enough. And I think once I crossed the line, I knew I was just close enough behind that I'd done it, and it was like more of a moment of relief.
Yeah.
Because I think about how nervous I was the last day. It was like, oh my God, I actually did it. I get to go, like that sort of thing. But yeah, I couldn't really fully celebrate till I heard my name called. So
yeah.
It was cool.
It was amazing. Such a cool experience. And there was some very special people there watching and supporting, and they were emotional in the crowd as well. Do you want to speak to, I guess, who some of those people are from your Wolf Den box?
Yeah. So poor Rico, he was he's my main training partner, but also my like coach per se over those sort of weekends. And he was so emotional, and so emotional to the sense that he couldn't even come down onto the floor, that he was just like, I can't celebrate to like hear her name. And he was just crying up in the stands. And then Nat, Rico's wife, she was there and she was crying hysterically, screaming. We have a great video of her and she just sounds like a dying bird in the background of the video because she's just squawking. But yeah, those guys are so, like, they do so much for me and support me, and financially as well, they're excellent. And then obviously Mum, Dad, and Adam, they were over on the other side, and yeah, everyone was so stoked for me. So it was
happy.
It was awesome.
Yeah, so everyone was just genuinely so happy for you because, again, and like not with any offense, you were relatively unknown going into the season, and it was exciting for you to then become, I guess, now one of these big dogs, one of the big dog CrossFit Games athletes. So you make the games, and then you train leading up to it. Obviously, this year was a pretty intense year at the Games, so we'll ask kind of a few questions about that. Overall, how was, I guess, your experience in prepping for the Games once you knew that was like kind of coming up and that little period in between the semifinals?
The prep was really cool. It was really fun to have, I guess, a new sense of motivation. Like I always enjoy training, but knowing the event that was to come made training more exciting. It made it more purposeful. And we did some really hard workouts and there were some really hard days, but I had a good crew training with me. So it was good fun.
Yeah. And so before the Games, you flew over because you are a Mayhem athlete and you flew over to Crookville to train at CrossFit Mayhem. How was that?
Yeah, that was really cool. It was interesting. I sort of had the flu leading up to the Games and I was a little bit sick when we got there. and then the jet lag, and it was crazy warm. So the first few days were tough, and then obviously the people I were training with were crazy fit as well.
So who were some of them? Who were you training with mainly?
We sort of did a lot of training with everyone that was from Mayhem that qualified to the games, but I think mainly I trained with Roman Krenikov. He sort of took me under his wing. He was so lovely, and I think what made it good about training at Mayhem was that there were so many internationals.
Yeah.
So you never felt like on the outs. Everyone was really included, and everyone was from different places. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's such an incredible experience. And especially knowing like that you were a frother from back in 2017. So you got to go and be in the place that is in all the documentaries and meet like the big star athletes and be one of them though. Like that is like the coolest part. So then you go obviously to the games. Overall, how was your experience at the games?
Overall, it was a very cool experience. I think obviously, things happened that made it really unfortunate and that sort of thing. But having no prior experience to this competition made, there was nothing to compare it to. So, overall it was still an excellent experience, and I had really cool crew with me, and, the whole trip was awesome. So
yeah. And there were some people that like, I guess you got to go through the experience with. Who were some of the other athletes that you felt like you kind of were drawn to and were a part of your, I guess, little crew, I guess, going through it all there together?
I think like the Mayhem crew as well, but the Aussies I sort of connected with were Georgia Pryor and Peter Ellis, obviously both rookies as well. Super lovely people, and we definitely, connected in the sense that we were new and fresh and we didn't really know what was going on, and we were just going through the ride. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So would you rather go through it as a first year athlete this year than having something to compare it to, do you think?
I think the veterans definitely, obviously they knew Lazar, but I think they have something to compare it to, and it was really different. And
even being at a new location, like absolutely everything was so different.
Everything was so new, and I think this being my first year was, it was tough, but it was also good in the sense that you had nothing to compare it to. So for me, it was still, a good experience.
Yeah. And so this weekend, as in today, you're going to be competing against Tia, Claire Toomey. Did you have much to do with her at the games? Did you interact with her at all over there?
We had like a very brief chat in our first briefing, and I just remember like you could definitely tell she's an Aussie because she was just cracking jokes. And she was super lovely, but then she was definitely like, when it came to game time, it was game time for her. So it was more just very brief in the start, and then she was ready to win.
Yeah. It is crazy that you were over there interacting with them all. So from the games, I guess, is there any events or moments that would stand out as the highlight for you personally, and like knowing all of your goals leading up towards it?
I don't know if this really relates to any of my goals, but I think my highlight moment was at the track. We did the late event on Friday at the track under the lights. We ran a mile. That was so much fun. I remember we did it sort of 2 weeks prior to that. We practiced it, and I PB'd by like 30 seconds. And it was sick because I was in the final heat with all the big dogs, and I was sort of just like bringing up the rear the whole time. And then I was like, come on, like you can do it. I'm not coming last. And then I like made a sprint for it in the last 100 meters, and I was able to pass quite a few people. And
right
everyone,
on the line.
all my crew was screaming for me. And it was just like such an awesome experience, that one.
That is so cool. And so who actually came over to the games with you? Because there was quite a big Wolf Den crew there as well.
Yeah, we had a good crew, and we all stayed in the same house in Texas, which was an adventure as well. It was my immediate family, so mum, dad, and my brother. We had Nat and Rico, who own the gym, and their younger kid. And then there was, Adam as well. And then there was 2 other families as well that came along for the ride.
That's so much fun. And to be able to have them there to experience it with you as well would have been so nice, feeling like you had the support, not just back home, but immediately there as well. Yeah. So what were some of the biggest challenges then from the games and like biggest growth points?
I think just like figuring out how to navigate what happened. It was tough to even know, like I knew I wanted to compete. I'd traveled all that way. I'd done all the training. It was awesome to be able to say, I competed at the games. But when that happened, there was so much uncertainty, and I wasn't sure what was really the right decision at the time, but I just had to, go with my gut, and it ended up, I think I'm proud of the way I handled it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a champion over there, and it would have been so difficult. And I think everyone back home respected you so much for how you handled the situation. What about in terms of the athletic side of things? What was challenging?
There was definitely a lot that was challenging. I knew going into it that there'd be a lot of people that are a lot fitter than me. So that wasn't a shock, but it was still, there were still things that were a lot tougher than I thought I'd be, whether it be workouts or weights. And then it was, trying to keep the emotions in check as well when things didn't go my way or things were frustrating. So there was a lot that was challenging, but the overwhelming sense was I had a lot of fun and that I was proud to be there and proud to compete. So
yeah, that is so cool. Okay, so we're wrapping up a 2024 season. What are your kind of goals, I guess, moving forward, knowing that like there's a bit of a shift in the season structure, but just in general, is CrossFit still the thing you're going to be pursuing? What is the plan moving forward?
Yeah, 100%. I still love it. I mean, I just compete to have fun. And I was having a meeting with my coach, Jake, from Mayhem, and we were talking about the new season, and it is a little bit confusing. No one really knows what's going on. But I'm ready to just give it my best next year. The goal is still the same, to make it back to the games. But yeah, I'm here for fun. So I train for fun. I train to get better, but I also compete for fun as well. So whether it be doing the high rocks on the weekend or, I don't know, doing any other sort of fitness or other CrossFit competitions, maybe go back to New Zealand as well. I'm just here for whatever.
Fun and the experience, which is the best way to be, because then like you get to enjoy it and everything that you do is for like a bigger purpose. But if it's just doing it to win the games, like it would be so much more pressure, I guess, in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk on some of more of your mindset things, because that's one of the things about you as an athlete, which I think is so impressive. So before you go to hit a big lift, you have some cool self-talk, and we've debriefed on this with you before. Talk to, I guess, how you hype yourself up for those big moments.
Well, I think it's different depending on the scenario. I think if I'm in a competition setting, I don't need to hype myself up, just because the pressure of the crowd and if I don't lift it, I look like an idiot, just makes me lift it. But I think in training, when I've got to hit a high percentage or when I'm not feeling hyped up, I say to myself, like, just do it, or like I say clutch.
I love that
like,
word.
I don't know. I just say, I find I have to say something in my head that just makes me do it, because I sometimes have a bit of an issue with like mental blocks. So saying like something silly like clutch before the lift, I just feel like it gets me in the right zone, and then I try and say 3, 2, 1, go, to make sure I don't get in a little silly headspace.
And is that something that you learnt through gymnastics? 'Cause I know that like mental blocks and how you overcome those is a huge part of that sport. Is that kind of where that's evolved from?
I think so. I definitely had an issue with that in gymnastics as well. So I feel like I'm well practiced, but something I learned in gymnastics is if I'm having an issue with the skill, I'll like go back to the basics. So if you transfer that into weightlifting, if I'm having a bit of a mental block, say with a snatch, I'll just drop the weight right back and build up and then try again.
That is so cool.
And it seems to work most of the time.
I love it. And it's good because like it's like everyone's individual. And I think that from that conversation, Bailey, and I had with you back in February, I think it was, everyone should have like something that they're giving themselves positive self-talk. And it made me realize, oh, I don't give myself any positive self-talk. I just like have a go. And if it doesn't happen, I don't mind. But having that behind you, I think is so impressive. So this year has been a huge year. And we talked before about you knowing how to manage a lot of things through having done a lot when you were younger with gymnastics. So how have you managed everything that you have, study, work, family, friends? Is there any other strategies that you've had? Do you plan out your weeks? Like how do you fit it all in general?
I think when I was on placement, it was very busy. And what got me through was just, I guess, having like a routine that I would stick to. And knowing that if I didn't get it done, I would just feel unhappy about myself. So it was more about like, get it done so you can sleep at night. And I like saw a good quote, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was something about, some people can't do it because they're sick or they're unwell or they don't have the time. So, do it when you're tired, do it when you're sick of it, do it when you don't want to, do it when you're tired, that sort of thing. And I like the sense of just stick to your routine. And like a lot of people ask me, how do you have the motivation to go to the gym every day and then go to placement and get all your uni work done and that sort of thing. And I don't even know if I have any motivation. It's more just a sense of like, it's just my routine. Like I just do it.
Yeah.
Just because I know that's what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember what the question was at this point.
That's okay. I know what you mean, that you do things because it's like your set routine. So
Yeah.
speak back to when you were on the placement, what did a day kind of look like? I know roughly how you were squeezing absolutely everything in, but from wake up to bedtime, what were you actually doing to fit it all in?
Okay, so placement for physio is 5 weeks, 5-week blocks, and you generally do 4 days a week. So I did Monday to Thursday through all my blocks, and Monday through Thursday would generally look like training at 5 a.m. till like 6:30, and then I'd rush home, have breakfast, shower, and then be out of the door by like, depend on what time I start. But this recent one, I was out the door by 7:30, and then I'd go to placement from 8 till 5. And then I'd go back to the gym, get there at about 5:30, and then I would train until I'd finish my program. So sometimes I would get out by like 8, but generally it would be more like 8:39, and then I'd get home, have my dinner, and then like you got to do the little TikTok scroll, and then you'd go to bed, and then do it all over again.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like living on the edge of like sickness for like 5 weeks, trying not to burn out, trying not to fall off the wall, and then recover on Friday.
Yeah, that is insane. And some of those you were doing in lead up to big competitions. What was the worst timing of one of those placements? Was it leading into semis or was it leading into quarterfinals?
Oh, quarterfinals was, I did placement over quarterfinals, and that was stressful because I think when I'm on placement, I'm training purely alone, and I don't enjoy doing that very much. But I think the hardest thing about training alone is you don't know if you're still up to scratch or if you're getting better because you're just alone.
Yeah.
But you know, to do well in quarterfinals sort of showed me that I can do both and I can make it work. But I was lucky with the rest of the year with touring and with games that I was sort of off placement for that period of time. So it was good.
That's crazy. So you've squeezed it all in and gotten the absolute most out of this year that you possibly could. I think if other athletes are looking to you that aren't in the sport but maybe see this trajectory that you've been able to go on, what advice would you give to them about, I guess, stepping into this CrossFit athlete career?
I think what made me realize what I want to do next year was going through placement. And I think it showed me I can do both. It showed me that full-time work's probably not too sustainable just because, you know, it gets really tiring and I don't want to burn out in either ends, whether that be through my sport or my work. But it did show me that I think it's really important to have other things other than just CrossFit or just whatever sport you're pursuing. It's really easy to get in the mindset of I'm just doing CrossFit. It's all I've got to work towards. And when things don't go your way, it's really easy to then get really upset by that. So I think it's awesome to have, whether it be work or another hobby or something to do that takes time away from your CrossFit or your sport. So you have, you know, CrossFit's still something you get to look forward to. I think if I'm just sitting around in the middle of the day waiting for my next training session, I can get wrapped up in what do I have to do? And then, you know, if it doesn't go well, that's all I can think about. But I think what placement allowed me to do was to have something to think about. You know, I'm working all day and then I'm really excited to go to the gym at the end of the day because it's the thing I look forward to.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited for next year is working a little bit and then pursuing CrossFit as well and having that to still look forward to.
Yeah, I love that. And Bailey and I often say, because we'll get people at our gym that will start training, see a bit of potential, and they'll say, I think I'm going to quit my job and I just want to train. And our response back is always,
Yeah.
Really think about it because having something else to do is so important for your mental health. And if you just... Are you okay, Bailey? Bailey's coughing in the background. Do you want water? Okay. Saying, yeah, because if you're just training, it is just a huge mental load. Like anytime that you eliminate absolutely everything from your life just to focus solely on one thing, one, you want to make sure you have financial backing that's allowing you to do that, but also it's just a huge mental toll. So having like an element of a distraction, whatever that be, I think does produce more longevity and just sets you up for whatever your life is as well after the sport, because there is a very minute few who are able to make this their full-time career.
Yeah.
But having balance within that, I just think is so important for young athletes. But again, you're only 22, like you're still a baby. You got lots of time ahead of you to do all the crazy work things. So it is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've spoken about, I guess, your goals for the future. Right now, are you really happy training? Is everything going well?
Yeah, it is actually. I've obviously just graduated, so I am a little bit more free now, which is nice to have a bit of a break. But it is good knowing what's to come and knowing what I've got happening next year. But in saying that, being a bit free and having a lot of time to just relax is quite nice. But yeah, the crew I train with is awesome, so I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's so good. And you've made an adjustment since the games too. So now you have an individual coach from Mayhem, is that? Yep, so that's Jake
Numchev. I hope I'm saying that right. So yeah, he's been helping me now for maybe 5 weeks. So after the games, he was having me log my scores and sort of write like a good description about how the workout went so he could sort of gather some patterns. But now we're doing individualized programming, which is awesome. It's sort of like a new, like I said before the games, how we were training for like a new purpose. It's given me a bit more excitement throughout my training. And I can really see that every workout sort of and every piece is really direct towards me.
Yeah, because prior to the games, you were doing just Mayhem and then you had some individual coaching on the side on top of that as well.
Yes. So I was having help from Zach, who's like the performance coach at our gym, and he was writing some strength stuff for me. And like that was excellent. Zach's very knowledgeable, but I wanted to just do a little bit of a change up and make sure everything was sort of streamlined and in the one place. And it's made it a lot more convenient.
Yeah, that is really cool. And so are you still doing your midday sessions with the Wolf Den crew? Are they now on your individual programming? Are they just following Daisy McDonald programming now?
Pretty much. They're still doing the Mayhem Strength because they're on a back squat program at the moment. But once that finishes, it'll be Daisy McDonald programming.
And everyone will do the midday session, which is whatever your weakness is. So what are you working on at the moment in terms of weaknesses?
Still the same stuff. Still mainly upper body pressing is still a limiter, and then just strength in general.
Yeah. Okay. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So our final question, which is like to wrap up our podcast. So I know you give us stick about Bailey constantly saying be all in, but it's our catchphrase. It's what we're going with.
I catch myself saying it. It's bad.
Stop saying this. Okay, but I think it's important to note like be all in has a different meaning for absolutely everyone because my version of be all in is very different to Bailey's. So what does be all in mean to Daisy McDonald?
Okay. I think be all in means for me is when whatever you're doing, whatever task you're completing, it's important to be all in that moment. So whether it be just something as simple as, I don't know, writing a job application, I'm going to give my 100% effort to that in that moment, and then I can move on and be all in on something else later in the day. I think if you're going to do something, don't drag it out.
Yeah.
Don't procrastinate. Just do it. Be all in on the moment.
Yes. And this year you've been all in on a lot of different moments, which is why you've been able to, I guess, squeeze so much out of the last 12 months, more than most people would in a 12-month period. So that's cool. Yeah, we love it. Be all in. So today you're racing against Tia. Exciting. Are you going to win?
Gonna try.
If not, you've got to make a TikTok.
Is that the punishment?
Call her out. Yeah, call her out. But it will be fun. You got to run, and then Bailey can just push you along the back if you get too slow.
Yeah, he's going to have to do a lot of pushing.
You get a bruise in the back. Okay, that is all of my questions. Is there anything else you want to add to wrap up the podcast?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I'll just say thanks for having me, and I enjoy my time here, and I'm really excited to race and to see you guys.
Yay. So we will be back with Daisy across our summer holiday period. So it is wild that like I have been going to the Mornington Peninsula for the last every single year of my whole life since I was born for a holiday every year. And we started training at this Wolf Den box, which just happened to be the gym that Daisy trains at. So now every single year we get to go and spend our summer holidays training together. You'll have to drag Bailey through some CrossFit WODs this year.
I'm so excited. When you announced your semi-retirement, I'm like, doesn't get you a free pass on your January week.
January
We're
week.
going hard.
Yeah. He's going to have to relearn how to do a few things. Okay. That is all of our podcast today. We will see you in the next one. Like, subscribe, comment on podcast. I think that's the things we do. We're still not sure.
Download, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Download it, please. Daisy said so. Okay. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be all in.